History of my oldest ancestors of whom I am very proud descend. June 30th, 1109, Dona Urraca, my 28th grandmother, 6 times my grandmother, becomes Queen of León and Castile, upon the death of her father Alfonso VI, King of León and Castile. She was the half-sister of Dona Teresa, Countess of Portucali, and mother of Dom Afonso Henriquez, Portucali Rex Primus. Dona Urraca, Queen of León and Castile, was born in 1082 and died in Palencia, on March 8, 1129. She was the daughter of Afonso VI, King of León and Castile, and Constance of Burgundy, paternal granddaughter of Ferdinand I, the Great, King of León and Castile, and Sancha, Infanta heiress of León, and maternal granddaughter of Robert I, the Elder, Duke of Burgundy, and Helia Decima. Dona Urraca of León and Castile, called Urraca the Reckless, was Queen of León, Castile, and Galicia. She assumed the throne upon her father's death, on June 30th, 1109, until March 8, 1126. She was the daughter of Alfonso VI, King of León and Castile, and his second wife, Constance of Burgundy. Biography. Dona Urraca was born in Burgos. She was the eldest daughter of King Afonso VI of León and Castile and his second wife Constance of Burgundy. Thus, she was the heir to the throne of the kingdoms of León and Castile until 1107, when her father recognized his illegitimate son, Sancho, as heir. Dona Urraca's place in the line of succession made her the focus of dynastic policies, and she became engaged, as a child at the age of 8, in 1087, to Raymond of Burgundy. There are disagreements among historians as to whether Dona Urraca and Dom Raimundo were married or engaged, since in official documents, Dom Raimundo appears as Afonso VI's son-in-law, something that could only be mentioned if they were already married. There are doubts as to whether the marriage was consummated before Dona Urraca turned 13. Her pregnancy, at age 14, suggests that it was consummated around this time. The marriage with Dom Raimundo was part of Afonso VI's diplomatic strategy to attract alliances beyond the Pyrenees. Dona Urraca gave birth to 2 children, a daughter, Sancha Raymundez, and a son, Afonso Raymundez, who would become King Afonso VII. Dom Raimundo died in 1107, leaving her a widow with 2 children. Dona Urraca would again become heir to the throne with the death of her brother, Sancho, in the Battle of Ucales, in 1108. Afonso VI gathered the nobles of the kingdom in Toledo and announced that his daughter was chosen to succeed him in the throne. The nobles agreed to the appointment, but demanded that she remarry. Several candidates appeared almost immediately, including Counts Gomez Gonzalez and Don Pedro Goncalves de Lara. Afonso VI feared that the rivalries between the nobles of León and Castile would be accentuated if she married any of these suitors, so Dona Urraca was given in marriage to Afonso I of Aragon, paving the way for a union of León and Castile with Aragon. Reign. Negotiations for the marriage were still taking place when Afonso VI died on June 30, 1109, and Dona Urraca became queen. Many of Afonso VI's advisors and several nobles of the kingdom silently opposed Dona Urraca's marriage to the King of Aragon, for fear of the influence the king would have on Dona Urraca and Leo's politics. Even though she protested against the marriage, Dona Urraca fulfilled the wishes of her father and the royal council and continued the marriage negotiations, even though she was suspicious of the numerous demands of Afonso I of Aragon. The marriage almost immediately sparked rebellions throughout Galicia. Galician nobles feared that their influence in the Kingdom of León might be diminished in favor of Afonso I and the Aragonese nobles. A faction formed from French clerics, whose political influence grew during Dona Urraca's first marriage, now fearing losing their privileges. A second faction was formed with Galician nobles, who competed for influence in both courts. They feared that the center of power might shift if the marriage was consummated. The factions were articulated by his illegitimate half-sister, Dona Teresa de Leo, Countess of Portucali, my 28th grandmother, 12 times my grandmother. They believed that the marriage could threaten Afonso Raymundez's position as heir, the result of his first marriage. Thus, one of the first acts of the newlyweds was to sign a pact where the monarchs guaranteed sovereignty over their own kingdoms, declaring their future children heirs, and, in the event that this union was not fruitful, the spouse who lived longer would succeed the other. On the throne, the Galician faction was divided, one led by Diego Gelmayes, Archbishop of Santiago de Compostela, who defended the position of Afonso Raimundes as successor to the throne, and the other led by Count Dom Pedro Froilas de Trava. A third group opposing the royal marriage formed at court, led by Count Gomez Gonzalez, whose motivation against Dona Urraca and Afonso I of Aragon was driven by fear of losing power, a sensation soon confirmed when Afonso I appointed nobles from Aragon and Navarre to important posts in the kingdom and as lieutenants of fortresses. From Galicia, the Count of Trava created a faction against the monarchs by claiming the hereditary rights of Afonso Raimundes. In response to the Galician rebellion, Afonso first marched his army into Galicia and in 1110, re-established order after defeating local forces at Monteiro Castle. The Galician rebellion against royal power was just the beginning of a series of political and military conflicts that, with the opposing personalities of Dona Urraca and Afonso I and their mutual dislike, gave rise to a continuous civil war in the Hispanic kingdoms in the following years. The intimate relationship between the monarchs was very bad. Dona Urraca first accused Afonso of domestic violence and abuse and separated from him in 1110. In addition to her objections to Afonso's dealings with the rebels, the couple had a major disagreement over the execution of some of them who submitted to the queen, telling with his mercy. Furthermore, many nobles were opposed to Afonso's figure, so a future heir to the queen became a political issue of great importance. An alliance between Afonso de Aragão and Count Dom Henrique of Portugal culminated in the Battle of Candaspina in 1111, in which Dona Urraca's lover and main supporter Gomez Gonzalez was killed. He was soon replaced in both roles by another count, Dom Pedro González de Lara, who took over the fight and paternity of Dona Urraca's two children. In the autumn of 1112, a truce was negotiated between Dona Urraca and Afonso with the annulment of their marriage. Although Dona Urraca recovered Asturias, León and Galicia, Afonso I still occupied a significant area of Castile, where Dona Urraca enjoyed great support, while his half-sister Dona Teresa and her husband Count Enrique occupied Zamora and Extremadura. Recovering these regions and expanding into Muslim lands would occupy a large part of Dona Urraca's foreign policy. Historians claim that the success of Dona Urraca's reign lay in her ability to restore and protect the integrity of her inheritance, that is, her father's kingdom, and transmit it to her heir. Character? According to Spanish history, Dona Urraca is normally described as someone prudent, modest, and with common sense. Some of her opponents attributed the fact that she was a woman to a weakness and perversity that they generally attributed to women. She was known for her charm and intellect and for always trying diplomacy before weapons. Death and legacy. Among all the women of the time and her age, Dona Urraca was notable for maintaining the unity of her kingdom and ruling with full right, always using diplomacy and influence, preparing the way for the ascension to the throne of her son, Afonso VII. Dona Urraca died on March 8, 1126, during childbirth, a very common cause of death among women at the time, even at the age of 46, where pregnancies are not so common. Family and descent. Dona Urraca, Queen of León and Castile, my 28th grandmother, 6 times my grandmother, married Dom Raymond of Burgundy, my 28th grandfather, 6 times my grandfather, son of William I, Count Palatine of Burgundy, and Estefania de Longwy, daughter of Adalbert, Count of Longwy, Duke of Upper Lorraine, and Clemency of Foix, Countess of Bigorre, from whom she had Afonso VII of León and Castile, my 27th grandfather, 6 times my grandfather, married Berengaria of Barcelona, 27th grandmother, 5 times my grandmother, then married Dona Urraca Fernández de Castro, my 27th grandmother, 4 times my grandmother, and finally with Requilda de Plonia, my 27th grandmother, 4 times my grandmother. Sancha Raimundes. Dona Urraca, Queen of León and Castile, married Afonso I, King of Aragon, but had no descendants from this marriage. Dona Urraca, Queen of León and Castile, had romantic relationships with Dom Pedro Goncalves de Lara, Count and Lord of the House of Lara, my 28th grandfather, 6 times my grandfather, son of Dom Goncalo Nunes de Lara, with whom she had 2 children. Dona Elvira Pérez de Lara, married to Bertrand de Raynal, French crusader, my 27th grandparents, 6 times my grandparents. Fernán Pérez de Lara, El Atodo,